Las Vegas rises from one of the harshest deserts on Earth, a city of neon and fountains where annual rainfall struggles to reach 4 inches, and summer heat soars above 105 degrees Fahrenheit. Technology and money conjured an oasis against every rule of nature, but foundations this fragile cannot last forever. The glitter never tells you how thin the lifeline really is. The question is not why Las Vegas dazzled, but how long you can defy the desert before it takes everything back. Nothing about the Mojave Desert welcomes a city. The land stretches out in pale, flat silence, broken only by jagged mountains and the faint traces of dry washes. Rain is a rare visitor here. Most years less than 4 inches fall, barely enough to darken the dust. In summer, the air burns above 105 degrees, sometimes higher, with heat that lingers long after sunset. The soil offers no hidden rivers, no aquifer waiting beneath the surface. Only shallow, briny groundwater lies below, undrinkable and quickly exhausted. Plants survive by shrinking, hiding, or growing thorns. Animals burrow or hunt at night. For thousands of years, people passed through but did not stay. The land did not offer enough to support more than scattered camps and the hard lessons of survival. Early explorers described the valley as a place to cross, not to settle, a stretch of emptiness between the Colorado River and the distant mountains of California. By the early 20th century, the area that would become Las Vegas was little more than a rail stop, a patch of green fed by a few artesian springs. Even those springs were limited, barely enough to water a small town. As the population crept higher, wells ran dry. The desert pushed back against every attempt to grow. Drought was not an occasional hardship, but the default state. Since 2000, over 80% of weeks have registered as drought, with 15% reaching the extreme or exceptional category. Summer days bring relentless sun. Asphalt softens, and metal becomes too hot to touch. Each year, heat deaths are recorded in Clark County, reminders that this is not a gentle climate, no matter how many palm trees line the boulevards. The Mojave is the driest major metropolitan region in the United States. In the absence of outside intervention, nothing about this place supports a city. Yet, against this backdrop, Las Vegas began to take shape. Not because the land offered a foundation, but because technology and capital forced the desert to make room. The city's existence is not a story of adaptation to nature, but of overwhelming it, of importing water, power, and people to a place that never asked for them. The valley's silence is always there, just beyond the reach of neon, waiting for the day the lifeline snaps. Electricity changed everything. When Hoover Dam sent its first surge of hydropower west in 1936, the lights in Las Vegas burned brighter than anywhere else in the desert. Air conditioning, once a luxury, became the engine of possibility. Inside the casinos, cool air washed over felt tables and slot machines, pushing back the desert heat. Outside, neon signs, powered by cheap, abundant energy, turned Fremont Street into a glowing corridor. By the late 1930s, the city's first neon boom was underway, bathing the strip in colors that cut through the night. The promise was simple. If you could make the desert comfortable, you could make it profitable. Hydropower did not just cool rooms and run fountains, it fueled a mindset. The impossible suddenly felt inevitable. Promoters and city officials spoke of endless growth, of a future where water and power would always flow, no matter how many people arrived. In their words, Las Vegas was not a gamble, it was a guarantee. Brochures from the 1940s and the 1950s described a city of limitless opportunity, where the only limits were imagination and ambition. But beneath the optimism, the city's foundation remained artificial. Every new casino, every blinking sign depended on water pumped from Lake Mead and electricity routed through high-voltage lines. The sense of permanence was an illusion, engineered by the dam's steady output and the spectacle it enabled. By 1950, Las Vegas's population had tripled in a decade, and the Strip's glow could be seen for miles across the empty basin. Hydropower made it possible to build not just for today, but for a tomorrow that seemed assured. The city's boosters were relentless. They sold Las Vegas as a miracle in the desert, a place where engineering had conquered nature. The message took hold. Tourists arrived by the thousands, drawn by the idea that anything could happen here, and that it would last forever. Yet every light, every chilled room, every drop of water was a reminder. The miracle was manufactured, not inherited. If you want more stories about cities built on ambition, illusion, and risk, and what happens when reality catches up, subscribe to Cityfall. Las Vegas has always treated history as a stage set, something to be torn down and rebuilt when the audience changes. In 1946, Bugsy Siegel opened the Flamingo, introducing the city's first true casino resort. The Flamingo was not just a building, it was the start of a myth, selling the idea that luxury and vice could bloom in the desert. The mob era followed, with names like Meyer Lansky and Mo Dalitz shaping the Strip's early fortunes, but the city never stood still. By the late 1960s, Howard Hughes began buying up hotels in a frenzy, spending over $300 million in less than 4 years. Corporate money replaced mob cash, and casinos traded shadowy back rooms for boardrooms and stock tickers. The 1990s brought another transformation. Family-friendly mega-resorts rose from the dust, each more extravagant than the last. The Mirage opened in 1989 with a volcano that erupted on schedule every night. Excalibur, Luxor, and New York followed, each one promising a new fantasy. But the family experiment did not last. By the late 1990s, the city pivoted again. Bellagio opened in 1998, ushering in an era of luxury and spectacle, fountains, marble, and high-end shopping. The Venetian and Wynn quickly joined, pushing the Strip into a new league of opulence. The 2010s saw yet another reinvention. Nightlife and influencer culture took center stage. Clubs like Hakkasan and Omnia brought superstar DJs and social media spectacles, selling the city to a new generation. The Strip became a backdrop for curated experiences. What mattered was not just being there, but being seen. Each cycle depended on outside capital and a willingness to discard the past. UNLV historian David G. Schwartz calls this the city's core instinct, survival through spectacle and constant reinvention. In Las Vegas, permanence is an illusion. The only thing that lasts is the appetite for something new. On March 17, 2020, the Strip went dark. Casino floors that had never closed, not for holidays, not for power outages, emptied out in a single night. By dawn, velvet ropes blocked every entrance. Security guards patrolled silent lobbies where slot machines blinked to no one. The order to shut down came fast, less than 24 hours after the governor's announcement, and every casino in Nevada was shuttered. Dealers, cooks, bartenders, and housekeepers, thousands of them, walked out mid-shift, some hiding tips in lockers, unsure if they would be back in a week or a year. Within days, Clark County lost over 200,000 jobs. Unemployment soared to 34%, the highest in the country. In a city built on hospitality, nearly 1 in 3 workers found themselves without a paycheck. Hotels that once hosted 150,000 guests a night posted occupancy numbers below 20%. Conventions vanished from the calendar. The Consumer Electronics Show, usually drawing 170,000 visitors, was canceled for the first time in its history. Taxi lines disappeared. Airport arrivals fell by millions. The endless churn of tourism, which had always felt like a law of nature, simply stopped. A hospitality analyst put it bluntly. Las Vegas has no backup plan. If the visitors vanish, so does the city's economy. The shock rippled outward. Restaurants closed, rental payments were missed, entire neighborhoods fell quiet. The Strip's billion-dollar towers, financed on the promise of constant crowds, now faced a math problem with no solution. With every empty room, the fragility of a one-industry town became impossible to ignore. The city that prided itself on reinvention faced a new kind of test. What happens when the demand it was built for disappears overnight? A single Las Vegas mega-resort rises from the desert at a cost between $4 and $10 billion. Every inch of marble, every chandelier, every themed tower is built on borrowed money. Debt is not a side effect, it is the business model. Strip operators sign bond covenants and ground leases that demand relentless performance. A resort's financial survival depends on keeping rooms full, tables busy, and every conference hall humming. the numbers leave no room for error. 85% occupancy is not a target, it is a threshold. Below that, the math begins to unravel. A former resort CFO describes the system as high-wire finance. We run at full tilt all the time. An 8% drop in occupancy can trigger a covenant breach. That is not theory, it has happened before. During downturns, even a brief slip in visitor volume can threaten the ability to pay interest, rent, and wages. Bond agreements often specify that if revenue or occupancy falls just a few points, lenders can demand immediate repayment or force a sale. The ground beneath the neon is more fragile than it looks. The pressure to fill rooms never lets up because fixed costs do not disappear when the crowds thin out. Mega resorts owe hundreds of millions in annual debt service and lease payments, whether the casino is packed or empty. Unlike other cities where hotels can weather a slow season, the Strip's financial structure magnifies every dip. A single bad quarter can send shockwaves through balance sheets. REIT landlords who own the land beneath many resorts expect their rent on time. If occupancy falters, cash flow dries up and the risk of default grows overnight. In Las Vegas, scale is both the promise and the trap. As resorts grow taller and more elaborate, the margin for error narrows. The city's financial architecture rewards risk but punishes even small failures. Every new tower is a bet that the crowds will never stop coming. But the math is unforgiving. In a system built for perpetual demand, a pause is not a slowdown, it is a warning sign. Lake Mead's waterline tells the story more plainly than any headline. In January 2025, the reservoir stood at 1,066 feet above sea level. By the end of the year, it had slipped to 1,062 feet. That is the lowest December reading since the early 2000s, and the trend is not reversing. Hydrologists tracking the basin warn that even a wet winter cannot mask the long-term decline. Projections now show the lake dipping below 1,050 feet by next summer, a level that triggers deeper federal cuts, known as Tier 2 shortages. For Nevada, that means losing another 4,000 acre-feet of water, on top of the 25,000 already cut in recent years. The legal agreements are automatic and impersonal. When the reservoir drops, the reductions hit. No appeals, no negotiation. Nevada's annual share shrinks, and the Southern Nevada Water Authority must make up the difference. In practice, this means more pressure on conservation, tighter restrictions, and less room for error. The system was built for abundance, but now it is managed by shortage tiers and emergency plans. Every drop is measured, banked, or recycled. The valley's water managers point to a 47% cut in per-person use since 2002, even as the population added 750,000 people. But the math is relentless. The river's flow is shrinking, and the city's allocation will never go up. Drought is no longer a temporary condition. It is the baseline. The illusion of endless supply has faded. What remains is a countdown, measured in feet and fractions, with each new tier tightening the limit on what Las Vegas can take. On the Strip, the numbers look unstoppable. Weekend room rates top $450 a night, with suites booked months in advance. Restaurants and clubs boast record covers. But beyond the neon, a different reality presses in. For most of the city's 300,000 hospitality workers, the cost of staying in Las Vegas has never been higher. Median rent in the metro area now hovers between $1,650 and $1,800 a month, up more than 50% since 2019. Wages have not kept pace. A housekeeper or line cook earning $18 an hour can spend nearly half their paycheck just to keep a roof overhead. A representative from Culinary Workers Union Local 226 puts it simply. This is a city for visitors that forgets residents' roofs. More than 40% of union members are rent-burdened, spending over a third of their income on housing. Many have been pushed out to the city's edges, commuting 30 miles or more each way, as investors scoop up apartments near the Strip and raise rents. Between 2020 and 2025, at least 15% of the union's workforce relocated, some leaving southern Nevada entirely. Despite the headlines about record profits, the city's prosperity is not evenly shared. An economist specializing in hospitality warns that the weekend sellouts and event spikes hide a dangerous volatility. Weekdays tell a different story. Average daily revenue for hotels drops to $180, and occupancy can fall below 70%. The gap between weekend peaks and midweek lulls has widened, and average daily rate and revenue per available room can swing by 2.5 times or more. Mega resorts rely on these brief surges to cover debt, but the system has no cushion. One bad season, a dip in conventions, or a shift in travel habits can leave thousands exposed. The city's success metrics, built on averages, disguise the strain beneath the surface. The illusion of endless demand masks a reality where the ground is always shifting, and the people who keep Las Vegas running are left to navigate the cracks. Las Vegas stands as proof that spectacle can defy reality for a while. Lake Mead's waterline drops year after year, and the Strip's profits mask debts that never sleep. In a world facing hard limits, cities built on borrowed time are forced to reckon with the bill. The illusion holds until the desert reminds us who owns the future. Drop your thoughts below. What city should we uncover next?